Das seinen Mund, die mehr zu sehen vermag, dann wird unser Wille und unser kalter Stahl auf die Not beißen. Das Land geht heil!
If our will is strong enough, then nothing can fail. Germany siegt heil.
This is the national program from London. Germany has invaded Poland and has bombed many towns. Parliament was summoned for 6 o'clock this evening. Orders completing the mobilization of the Navy, Army and Air Force were signed by the King at a meeting this afternoon of the Privy Council. The British Cabinet met from 11:30 this morning until 1:30, and both houses of Parliament were summoned for 6 o'clock this evening.
The French peace commissioners, a general, an admiral, an aviation general, and a diplomat, have met the Germans, and according to a United Press dispatch from Berlin, the armistice will probably be signed tomorrow in the forest of Compiègne, where the armistice of 1918 was concluded, and perhaps in the same railroad car that was used at that time. Hitler will be there in person. There is still no official information as to the terms, but the general belief is that this will be only a preliminary to a general peace to be concluded at the end of the war, and that meanwhile France will be totally disarmed and at least parts of the country occupied, with the Channel ports to be used as German bases for the attack on England. A hint as to the general nature of the settlement was given by the German radio in a broadcast picked up by our shortwave listening station an hour or two ago, which said that the voice of pity does not exist anymore in Europe. The Italians will apparently conclude a separate armistice, which will have to wait for the appointment of French commissioners and the fixing of a time and place of meeting by Mussolini. Thus it seems that France may be at war with Italy for a day or two after fighting against the Germans stops. Our correspondent Cecil Brown reported from Rome earlier this evening that Mussolini wants his troops to be on French soil when hostilities end. And, of course, this would be more easily accomplished if the Germans had disarmed the French first. Meanwhile, it is far from certain that French forces outside the homeland will stop fighting, even if ordered to do so by Premier Pétain. Both in Rome and London, there are reports that some of the men in the French government want to continue the war from the colonies, and the considerable number of planes that have flown across to Algeria hardly went there to surrender. Reports from Cairo tonight say that the French fleet in the eastern Mediterranean and the French army in Syria will also go on fighting. In France today, the Germans kept up their drive against the weakening French armies, but still had to do hard fighting at various points. They captured Brest, the great naval base at the northwest tip of the country, thus virtually completing occupation of the Channel coast, and in the southeast they took Lyon, the third city of France. Part of the garrison of the Maginot Line is still fighting on, though surrounded, and a good many thousand French and Polish troops fighting in the corner near Switzerland were forced over the frontier and interned. The government's departure from Bordeaux, which was heavily bombed by German planes last night, started rumors that it was going over to Algeria. But so far as we know, it merely wanted to deprive the Germans of any reason for further bombings of a city overcrowded with refugees. It is believed that the new capital will be Biarritz on the Spanish border.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. I look forward confidently to the exploits of our fighter pilots. These splendid men, this brilliant youth, who will have the glory of saving their native land, their island home, and all they love from the most deadly of all attacks.
And now it has come to us to stand alone in the breach and face the worst that the tyrant's might and enmity can do. Bearing ourselves humbly before God, but conscious that we serve an unfolding purpose, we are ready to defend our native land against the invasion by which it is threatened.
At the moment we can see two bright flashes, three flashes from the other side of the channel, and three great puffs of smoke, another fourth. And any moment now the shells will be arriving over this side. 4 columns of smoke going up on the far side as the convoy goes past us here. And there's the explosion. And the second. Just a very short way in front of us to see here. Tremendous column of water goes up. There's a third bomb just come down now. And there's one more to come, and there it is. All those 4 completely wide of the convoy, as they've all been so far, as the convoy steams past us slowly here. In each of those places where we heard those tremendous explosions, a great swirl of water goes up, a cloud of smoke and spray in the air still. It's an extraordinary feeling as you see the flash right over on the far side of the coast, and then the little column of smoke goes up from it. And then we wait for the explosion over this side.
This is London. Britain today claimed the greatest proportionate defeat of the German Air Force yet scored in the war. An Air Ministry communique was issued early this morning. It contained only 11 words. It said, "It is now known that 140 enemy aircraft were destroyed yesterday. The Royal Air Force lost only 16 of its fighter planes, but the pilots of 8 are safe," says the Air Ministry. It is reported that planes are over a southeast coastal town this morning. More than 600 German bombers and fighters crossed the coast of England yesterday in 3 mass attacks. According to several London newspapers, all the German planes were on their way to attack London. But according to official sources, the German raiders were seeking military objectives on London's outskirts. In the last raid of the day, 70 German bombers turned back when greeted by a shrapnel barrage over the Thames estuary. During last night and early today, the German Air Force confined itself to sending over airplanes one at a time. A few bombs were dropped in the darkness on the southeast coast.
The plane is still very high, and it's quite clear that he's not coming in for his bombing run. Earlier this evening, we could hear occasionally, again, those were explosions overhead. Earlier this evening, we heard a number of bombs go sliding and slithering across to fall several blocks away. Just overhead now, the burst of the anti-aircraft fire. Still, the nearby guns are not working. And the searchlights now are feeling almost directly overhead. Now you'll hear two bursts a little nearer in a moment. There they are. That hard, stony sound.
Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. So bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.